Hi everybody, I'm Dan Sem, Dean of Business at Concordia University and CEO of Bridge Secures, and we're working on an initiative to create face masks for first responders and healthcare providers, working especially with coronavirus. This, by the way, is a model of the coronavirus, and these are little spike proteins that attach to your cells to get inside. The virus itself is 120 nanometers or 0.12 microns. And if you've heard about N95 masks, these are the masks that filter, they're supposed to filter 95% of 0.3 micron particles. So that's even bigger than the coronavirus. But the coronavirus doesn't just sort of travel through the air on its own. It's typically on aerosolized water and spit and that sort of thing. So you do need filters that filter at a low level, as low as possible. If you want N95, that has to be certified by NIOSH. And the filters and the masks that we're working on are not N95 and they're not certified by NIOSH, but we do our best to get as close as we can to those specifications. So a lot of people have been working on 3D printing masks. They 3D print like this. It's part of a trend called Hack the Pandemic, which is a real exciting trend. And these, when you print them like this, you have to fold them along the creases right here. So you take a heat gun and you heat and you kind of bend them until they get to have a shape somewhat like this. And then you would wear this like so, like this. But it doesn't seal, and if it doesn't seal, it's not doing you any good. And by the way, you should be putting the filters in here. And they recommend, I think on one website I saw, makeup removal pads, which are pretty much just cotton and other fibers, and then something that filters more stringently. Well, that's kind of the most important thing, is what kind of filters you use. You also need to seal well around here. And so in one of our first iterations, we use window foam sealer around here so that you could get a good seal on your face. And let me see if I can do that, like so. And then an elastic band that you can fit around your back. And this sealed pretty good, actually, but not quite good enough, and frankly, healthcare workers weren't comfortable working with a mask that looks like something out of a hobby shop. So we did talk to a surgeon who molds his own silicone, and we decided to mold silicone to make a gasket here. And then we went and we were working with the engineering department at UW-Milwaukee, especially Kyle Jansen in particular, and came up with various designs. This is a design that we came up with also from Billings, University in Billings, where it's very simple. Instead of screwing, you just have this that pops out, and you can put a filter in here and squeeze it in here. So here's one that has that filter. So you can see here there's a 3-layer filter on the inside. Spun-bound, non-woven polypropylene, that's what this yellow one is. It's almost like a bathroom cloth. And then in the middle are 3 filters, and these are what do the heavy-duty filtering. These are rated MERV 13, so the MERV 11, 13, 16. These are ratings for HVAC in your home. And we found when we did our own studies that if you have 3 MERV 13 filters, it does really filter 95% of particles at 0.3 microns. And then you need to surround that with the spun-bound polypropylene, the non-woven material. That protects the filter from the moisture, and it also helps it last longer, and it prevents any of the filter material from making it into your mouth or nose. So, and then you just and we cut the squares to be 2.5 inches, so it's a little bit wider than this, and then you just kind of force that into the mask. So we 3D print the mask. We use a printer. The printers that most people use and have in their homes are called FDM printers, and the material we use is PLA. So this is the PLA material, and then just squeeze the filter in here, and then you have to come up with some sort of headband. And we just use sort of shoestrings, and we try to attach it to some sort of elastic on the other end so that you can get a tight bow when you tie it on the back of your head, because it's really important to have a tight fit. So here's another one, same model, same design, and it's got the filter in the middle here. We have hair scrunchie, any way that you can get some elasticity so that you can have 2 points of contact when you put it on your face like this. And then we pour molds where we pour silicone. And we use EcoFlex, and we have a silicone mold. We actually 3D printed a silicone mold, so this is the mold itself. So you pour the silicone in there, and then there's a cap that you put on top of it. So here's the bottom of the 3D mold. You pour the silicone. The EcoFlex has a solution A and a solution B that you mix 1 to 1. Ideally, you should degas that solution by pulling a vacuum on it. But if you don't degas, the main impact is that it's a little cloudy. So you pour the silicone solution in there. For the molds that we prepared, it's about 70 or so milliliters, and then you put the cap on like so, and then you let it seal or let it sit for around 2 hours, and then you pull the cap off, and you pull the silicone rubber out. And then you have this material. So the way we do the assembly of the mask is we prepare the filter sandwich, so it's the 3 MERV 13 layers and then the 2 polypropylene layers on either side in a clean room, so in ISO 5 clean room. Before we insert the filters, we wash down the plastic with 70% isopropyl alcohol. Whatever means of sterilization you have, we're just trying to be cautious. And then the silicone that we've poured is going to fit inside the crease right here. So we actually made the silicone mold so that there's a ridge inside there so that it stays in place. So the intent of this, and then it fits snugly to your face like so, with a really tight fit. If you want to make sure it fits, put your hand here. And if you can't breathe in and you feel kind of panicky, then you know that you have a good fit. And it's really important to do a fit test. You have to make sure. And you should be able to breathe pretty easily through this. And it does filter 95% of 0.3 micron particles.
The filter for each mask is made up of 2 layers of polypropylene spun-bound non-woven fabric, which is the yellow fabric in each layer, and 3 layers of MERV 13. And it is assembled in place by putting the filter brace behind the filter layers and popping it through the front of the mask. You might have to use a little bit of force to get it in through the mask, so don't be afraid to use a tool on hand if needed. Each filter also lasts for a period of 1 workday.
So you have your 5-layer filter with the 3 MERV 13 filters in the middle. Make sure they're in the middle. Put the square on top, and so you want it to be the filter to be wider than that, and then you simply insert it in the middle in here. So let me see if I can get it in there. And then you have to use a little bit of brute force to get her in there, and then like so. And then just make sure it's a tight seal all the way around the edge, that there's no air gaps or anything like that. So
part of the issue is that it makes it so tough and so tight. I'm having issues with this mask. You have to get it out. So here it is. You will then take this, toss it, get a new one.
Yeah, so that's what
We're going to put multiple mass filters together so that you'll have them when you receive your mask. But getting it back in, well, that's the key. So, for me, it works great, but it only goes in about 50%. As you can see, it's raised out another 1/4 inch or so, right? And you can see the spacing there where it's not quite snug enough to stop any particulates from getting in. So, you have to go to your trusty hammer. In each corner. And so from here, you can see it has a pretty decent seal all the way around, all 4 sides is in nice and snug. So that's a pretty good fit. You can't accidentally knock it out. You can't drop it, and your filter comes out.
So there's a few different ways you can do the straps. The simplest way, of course, is to put a strap here and here. and then you would tie this in the back of your head, and here, and you tie this in the back of your head. Another possibility is just to loop it all the way through, where you come in from down here, up through here, wrap around, this would be the back of your head, and then here. And then so you would put this over your head like so. You would wear a mask like I'm wearing. Pull it tight, and then you can just tie it in the back like this. Another variation of this is where you have the two scrunchies here, which get you some elastic pull here. So, but it's the same concept as this. So in this case, if we have the scrunchies on this side, you wrap around, this is for the back of your head, you come through here, here, and then you would tie this behind your head. So you would then wear it like this. Like so, pull it tight here, and then you tie it in the back of your head like so. So two different versions of this design, or if you like simple, you could just put a strap here, tie, strap here, tie. It's really important to get a tight seal. Oh, so I mentioned that the mask itself is not NIR certified as N95, and it is not considered a medical device, so it does not need FDA approval. This is a result of some loosening of federal regulations as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this can be used in an emergency situation. You just have to be careful not to represent that this is anything more than it is. You can't represent that it's N95 and it isn't. And if you're going to prepare these masks and give them to people, donate is what we're doing. I do think you should have people sign a waiver where they recognize these representations that I just said to you right now. So this is our current design. We pivoted from the original design that is moving around the country, this design, to now this sort of optimized design, which is building off of the Billings design that I told you with the square filter. We also have another version with a screw filter and so on. But the most important thing is just to make sure that you have good filtering capacity here. People are using all kinds of things like washcloths and coffee filters. Those are not going to filter as good as what I just described to you right now. Ideally, you would use a HEPA filter, but you can't breathe through a HEPA filter unless you have more surface area. And then just make sure you have a good seal here, which we did with silicone gasket.